My Travel to New York, Dream and Learn English, featuring Sarah. Each chapter will detail her journey, challenges, and eventual success in reaching New York while improving her English. Chapter Outline 1. The Dream Begins. Sarah's fascination with New York and her burning desire to learn English begin after watching a documentary. She envisions walking the streets of Manhattan and speaking fluent English. However, her small-town life offers little support, and she has to start with basic self-study. 2. First steps in learning English. Sarah faces her initial hurdles: no access to proper teachers, limited resources, and criticism from her family. Despite the negativity, she begins her journey with online resources and a borrowed grammar book, struggling to make sense of the new words and pronunciations. 3. Facing family and social barriers. Her relatives mock her ambitions, questioning why she wants to leave her hometown. Sarah finds solace in her best friend Aisha, who supports her. Determined to prove everyone wrong, Sarah sets small, achievable goals to improve her English. 4. An unexpected mentor. A local teacher, Mr. Anwar, notices Sarah's determination and offers to guide her. He introduces her to English newspapers, basic sentence structures, and conversational practice. Under his guidance, she begins to gain confidence but also realizes the depth of her learning gap. 5. The scholarship opportunity. Sarah discovers a scholarship program for studying in New York. The application process includes an English proficiency test, which terrifies her. With only 3 months to prepare, Sarah must accelerate her learning while managing her household chores and community expectations. 6. Overcoming the test fear. The day of the test arrives, and Sarah's nerves almost get the better of her. Through sheer determination and mental preparation, she faces the challenge. While she struggles with the listening section, her essay about her dreams deeply resonates with the examiners. 7. The long wait. Sarah anxiously waits for the results, facing sleepless nights and self-doubt. During this period, she continues to improve her speaking skills by practicing with a language partner online. Finally, the result arrives, and Sarah's hard work pays off. She secures the scholarship. 8. Preparing for the journey. Sarah now faces the practical challenges of moving to New York: visa interviews, cultural preparation, and financial hurdles. She must also convince her conservative family to let her go. Through persistence and heartfelt conversations, she manages to gain their reluctant approval. 9. Arriving in New York. Stepping into New York for the first time, Sarah is overwhelmed by the fast-paced life, diverse culture, and linguistic challenges. She struggles to understand accents and participate in conversations, but she doesn't let her insecurities hold her back. 10. Success and reflection. After months of dedication, Sarah adapts to her new environment. Her English improves remarkably, and she becomes confident in her academic and social interactions. Reflecting on her journey, she realizes that the hurdles she faced only made her stronger. Chapter 1. The Dream Begins. Sarah sat on the balcony of her modest home, staring at the fading colors of the evening sky. The small town where she lived was peaceful, but to her, it felt like a cage. A month ago, she had watched a documentary about New York City. The towering skyscrapers, bustling streets, and people from all over the world fascinated her. Since then, the dream of visiting New York and speaking English fluently had taken root in her heart. But Sarah's reality was far removed from that dream. She lived in a town where English was rarely spoken, and her school focused only on basic grammar. Her knowledge of the language was limited to a few simple phrases like, "How are you?" and "Thank you." Yet, she yearned to learn more. One day, Sarah confided in her mother, "Amy, I want to go to New York one day. I want to learn English and see the world." Her mother laughed, brushing off her words. "New York? You can't even speak English properly. How will you manage there?" Sarah felt a pang of hurt but didn't let it show. That night, as the world around her slept, she sat by the dim light of her desk lamp, flipping through an old English grammar book she had borrowed from the school library. The words looked strange, the rules confusing, but Sarah was determined. She decided to start small, learning 10 new words every day and practicing them in sentences. Her first list included words like dream, hope, learn, and journey. She repeated them under her breath until they felt familiar. She didn't know it then, but this was the first step in a journey that would change her life forever. Sarah's enthusiasm to learn English was unwavering, but the challenges quickly became apparent. Her town's small library had only a handful of English books, most of which were outdated and too advanced for her. The grammar book she borrowed was filled with complex rules and exercises that made her head spin. "I can't even understand these sentences," Sarah muttered, frustrated. But giving up wasn't an option. She decided to break the book into smaller parts, starting with the simplest topics: nouns, verbs, and adjectives. Late at night, while her family slept, Sarah practiced. She wrote sentences like, "The boy runs fast, and I have a book." They were basic, but every word felt like progress. The next morning, she decided to practice speaking aloud. Standing in front of a cracked mirror in her room, she introduced herself in English. "My name is Sarah. I live in a small town. I like books." Her pronunciation was hesitant, and the words sounded strange, but hearing herself speak gave her a thrill. Family resistance. Sarah's siblings noticed her unusual behavior. Her younger brother, Zaid, teased her endlessly. "Why are you talking to yourself like a crazy person?" he laughed, imitating her broken sentences. Sarah ignored him, but her confidence wavered. The next day, her father, a strict man who believed in traditional values, overheard her practicing. "Why are you wasting your time with this English nonsense?" he asked sternly. "Focus on your household duties instead." His words stung, but they also fueled her determination. Sarah promised herself that she would prove everyone wrong. Finding inspiration. One evening, Sarah's best friend, Aisha, visited her. Aisha was the only person who supported her dreams. "I heard you're learning English," Aisha said with a smile. "That's amazing. Can I help?" Encouraged by her friend's kindness, Sarah shared her struggles. "I don't know where to start. The words are difficult, and my family thinks I'm wasting my time." Aisha placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You're not wasting your time, Sarah. You're investing in your future. Let's practice together. I'll teach you what I know." That night, the two friends practiced simple dialogues. Aisha pretended to be a shopkeeper while Sarah played the role of a customer. "I want apple," Sarah said hesitantly. "Do you mean, I want an apple?" Aisha corrected gently. Sarah repeated the sentence until it felt natural. The laughter and encouragement they shared made learning fun. A turning point. One day, while scrolling through her old phone, Sarah stumbled upon a video about a girl from a similar small town who had won a scholarship to study in the United States. Inspired, Sarah began researching opportunities online. That evening, she told Aisha, "I found a scholarship program for studying in New York. But the application requires an English proficiency test." Aisha's eyes widened. "That's amazing. But can you prepare in time?" "I don't know," Sarah admitted. "But I'm going to try." From that moment, Sarah's dream gained new urgency. She increased her study hours, practicing reading, writing, and speaking daily. She downloaded language apps, watched English movies with subtitles, and even started keeping a journal in English. A community divided. Word of Sarah's ambitions spread in her community. Some people mocked her, calling her dreams unrealistic, while others admired her courage. "She's trying to act smart," an older woman whispered to a neighbor. "Girls like her don't belong in places like New York." But there were also those who quietly rooted for her. Mr. Anwar, a retired teacher, approached her one day. "I've heard about your efforts, Sarah," he said. "If you need help, I'd be happy to guide you." Sarah was overjoyed. With his guidance, she began to understand the nuances of the language, idioms, phrasal verbs, and even some cultural references. The chapter ends with Sarah feeling more hopeful but aware of the long road ahead. The seed of her dream has been planted, and her journey to New York has officially begun. Chapter 2: First Steps in Learning English. Sarah's mornings were no longer ordinary. They started with an unwavering routine, flipping through her borrowed grammar book and practicing speaking into a mirror. The words felt foreign on her tongue, but her determination pushed her forward. Her teacher-turned-mentor, Mr. Anwar, became her guiding light. He suggested she focus on one skill at a time. First, build your vocabulary, he said. Words are the foundation of any language. Without them, you can't construct sentences. Sarah nodded, taking his advice to heart. She bought a small notebook and labeled it My English Words. Every day, she wrote down 10 new words, their meanings, and examples of how to use them in sentences. The Vocabulary Challenge. The first week was exciting but exhausting. Words like ambition, opportunity, and effort sparked her enthusiasm. But as the list grew, Sarah struggled to remember everything. Mr. Anwar, I'm forgetting yesterday's words while learning today's, she admitted during one of their sessions. Don't worry, Sarah, he replied with a warm smile. Language learning isn't a race. Review your old words daily. Repetition is key. Following his advice, Sarah spent mornings reviewing and afternoons learning. She began testing herself by writing short stories using her new words. One of her first stories was about a girl who dreamed of traveling the world. Listening and speaking. Vocabulary wasn't enough. Sarah knew she had to improve her listening and speaking skills. Mr. Anwar suggested she start with English songs. Songs? She asked, surprised. Yes, songs are a fun way to learn pronunciation and sentence structure, he explained. Sarah hesitated but gave it a try. She chose simple songs like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star and slowly moved to more complex ones. At first, she stumbled over the words, but over time, the melodies made it easier to remember phrases. In addition, she started watching English movies with subtitles. While others in her family laughed at Bollywood dramas, Sarah sat with her earphones, listening to the dialogues of Hollywood films. She often paused and rewound scenes to mimic the actors' accents. The community's mockery. While Sarah's confidence grew, so did the scrutiny from her community. Some of her neighbors criticized her openly. Why is she wasting so much time on English? One woman asked her mother. She's forgetting her roots, another added. Sarah's mother tried to shield her from the comments, but even she didn't fully understand her daughter's dream. Beta, her mother said one evening, learning English is fine, but don't forget your responsibilities at home. I won't, Amy, Sarah replied, balancing her chores with her studies. But deep down, she felt the weight of everyone's doubts. Aisha's encouragement. Sarah found a safe space with her best friend, Aisha. They often sat together under the old banyan tree, where Sarah practiced speaking English while Aisha listened patiently. Yesterday, I learned a new word, perseverance, Sarah said one day. It means not giving up even when things are hard. That's exactly what you're doing, Sarah, Aisha replied. You're living the meaning of that word. Their conversations became a source of inspiration for Sarah. With Aisha's encouragement, she began practicing full conversations, imagining herself ordering coffee in New York or asking for directions in Times Square. Overcoming a major fear. One of Sarah's biggest challenges was speaking in public. The thought of making mistakes and being judged terrified her. You can't avoid mistakes, Mr. Anwar told her during a lesson. Mistakes are proof that you're learning. To push herself, Sarah volunteered to speak during a community event. She prepared a short speech about the importance of education. Her hands trembled as she walked to the microphone, and her voice shook during the first few sentences. But as she continued, her confidence grew. The applause she received afterward wasn't overwhelming, but it was enough to assure her that she was on the right path. A new sense of purpose. Sarah's efforts began paying off. She could now understand simple English sentences and respond with basic phrases. Her mentor noticed her progress and suggested she aim higher. Let's start practicing for the English proficiency test, he said. Sarah hesitated. Do you think I'm ready? You're more ready than you think, he replied. With a renewed sense of purpose, Sarah dived into the test materials. She practiced reading comprehension, essay writing, and listening exercises daily. Her determination grew stronger as she imagined herself walking the streets of New York, fluent in English, and proud of how far she had come. The chapter ends with Sarah feeling both nervous and excited about the next phase of her journey. She knows the road ahead will be tougher, but she's ready to face it. Chapter 3: Facing Family and Social Barriers. Sarah's progress in learning English began to show in subtle but noticeable ways. Her sentences became more coherent, her vocabulary richer, and her confidence in speaking more pronounced. However, as her skills improved, the resistance she faced at home and in her community grew stronger. One evening, during dinner, Sarah's father noticed her scribbling English phrases in her notebook while eating. "Can't you leave this obsession for one moment?" he said sharply. "You're neglecting your duties. What will all this English achieve? Are you planning to become a professor in America?" His sarcasm cut deep, but Sarah chose her words carefully. "Abba, learning English is not just about America. It's about growing and opening doors to new opportunities. Imagine if I could teach others one day." Her father dismissed her explanation with a wave of his hand, but her mother watched silently, her expression torn between concern and pride. Social pressures escalate. The whispers in the neighborhood grew louder. "She's too ambitious for her own good," one neighbor said to another. "Girls in our town don't need such skills. They need to learn cooking and sewing, not foreign languages," another chimed in. Sarah heard these comments but chose to stay quiet. Instead, she used them as fuel to push herself further. Aisha, her loyal friend, encouraged her to ignore the negativity. "Sarah, people criticize what they don't understand. Keep your focus. One day, they'll see your success." A bold move. Determined to prove her seriousness, Sarah took a bold step. She signed up for a small online English course using the money she had saved from tutoring younger kids in her neighborhood. The course provided her access to live lessons and practice exercises. Logging in for her first class was both thrilling and nerve-wracking. Her teacher, Ms. Linda, was a cheerful woman from London who spoke slowly and clearly. "Welcome, everyone. Let's start with introductions," Ms. Linda said. When it was Sarah's turn, she froze. Her mind went blank, and all the phrases she had practiced seemed to vanish. My name is Sarah," she stammered. From a small town." "That's a great start, Sarah," Ms. Linda said warmly. "Keep practicing, and you'll get better in no time." Encouragement from unexpected places. One day, while Sarah was practicing pronunciation in her backyard, her younger brother, Zaid, walked by. "You sound funny," he said, laughing. Sarah sighed but didn't stop. To her surprise, Zaid stayed and listened. "Can you teach me some words?" he asked hesitantly. His question shocked her. "You want to learn English?" "Maybe," he shrugged. "I heard it's useful." This small moment gave Sarah hope. If she could inspire her mischievous little brother, maybe she could eventually win over her father too. The Emotional Confrontation. A turning point came during a family gathering. Sarah's uncle, a traditionalist with strong opinions, started questioning her father. "I hear your daughter is learning English. What good will that do her? She's not going to become a doctor or engineer, is she?" Sarah's father looked uncomfortable, but before he could respond, Sarah spoke up. "Uncle, learning English isn't just for doctors and engineers. It's a tool that can help anyone, no matter their profession. It's about growth, understanding the world, and making better opportunities for yourself." Her uncle laughed dismissively. "These are big words, but let's see if they lead anywhere." That night, Sarah's mother came to her room. "Sarah, you're brave to speak like that," she said softly. "But your father worries about you. He's afraid your dreams will lead to disappointment." Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes. "Ammy, I know it's hard for him to understand. But I promise, I won't let him down." A glimmer of hope. Despite the tension at home, Sarah's progress continued. Ms. Linda noticed her improvement during the online classes and encouraged her to apply for the English proficiency test. "You're ready, Sarah," she said. "You just need to believe in yourself." Sarah registered for the test, though her heart raced with anxiety. She knew the exam would be her first real challenge. It wasn't just about passing, it was about proving to herself and others that her efforts were worthwhile. The chapter ends with Sarah standing outside the local testing center, holding her admit card. Her journey to mastering English and reaching New York was entering its most critical phase yet. Chapter 4: The English Proficiency Test. The morning of the test felt like a battle against her nerves. Sarah had barely slept the previous night, replaying grammar rules, vocabulary, and sentence structures in her mind. The exam center was bustling with people from all walks of life, each carrying their own aspirations. Sarah clutched her admit card tightly, her palms damp with sweat. She glanced around, noticing others who seemed just as nervous as she was. Some were flipping through books, while others muttered words to themselves. "Focus, Sarah," she whispered, taking a deep breath. "The test begins." The invigilator entered the room and gave clear instructions. The test had 4 parts: listening, reading, writing, and speaking. "Start with the listening section," the invigilator announced. Sarah placed her headphones on, her heart pounding. The audio began: a man and a woman discussing a business meeting. Sarah struggled to catch every word but focused on understanding the main ideas. The reading section was next. Sarah carefully read each passage, underlining key details and answering questions. It wasn't easy, but she recalled Mr. Anwar's advice: don't overthink. Trust your first instinct. The writing section required her to write an essay about the importance of global communication. Her mind raced as she drafted sentences, careful to use the vocabulary she had learned. Finally, it was time for the speaking test. This was the part she dreaded most. Facing her fears. Sarah entered a small room where an examiner greeted her with a smile. "Good afternoon. Please introduce yourself," he said. She took a deep breath. "My name is Sarah. I am from a small town, and I love learning English because it helps me understand the world better." The examiner nodded. "Why do you think English is important in today's world?" Sarah's heart raced, but she forced herself to speak. "English is like a bridge. It connects people from different countries. Without it, many opportunities are lost." The examiner asked more questions about her hobbies, her future plans, and her favorite book. Though her voice trembled at times, Sarah answered each question to the best of her ability. The wait for results. After the test, Sarah felt both relief and anxiety. She had done her best, but self-doubt lingered. Did I speak clearly enough? Did I write the essay well, she wondered. The results would take 2 weeks to arrive. In the meantime, Sarah resumed her routine, studying, practicing, and tutoring younger kids. However, a cloud of uncertainty hung over her. Aisha noticed her friend's unease and tried to cheer her up. "Sarah, you've worked so hard. Even if the results aren't what you hope for, it's not the end. You'll find another way." The letter arrives. The day the results arrived was unforgettable. Sarah's father handed her an envelope with a skeptical look. "Let's see if all your effort was worth it," he said, walking away. Sarah's hands trembled as she opened the envelope. She scanned the letter, her eyes landing on the words. "Congratulations! You have passed the English Proficiency test." Her heart leaped with joy. She rushed to her mother, waving the letter. "Ammi, I did it! I passed!" Her mother hugged her tightly. "I'm so proud of you, Beta." Winning over her father. That evening, Sarah's father sat silently as she explained what the certification meant. "Abba, this is just the beginning. With this, I can apply for scholarships and even teach others English here in our town." Her father sighed deeply. "I still don't understand your dreams, Sarah. But if this makes you happy, I won't stand in your way." It wasn't the approval she had hoped for, but it was a start. A new opportunity. With her test results in hand, Sarah began exploring scholarships and opportunities to further her education. She stumbled upon a program that supported underprivileged students aspiring to study abroad. The application process was rigorous, but Sarah was determined to try. Her essay for the application focused on her journey, how a girl from a small town had overcome obstacles to learn English. She wrote about her dream of going to New York and using her education to uplift her community. As she submitted the application, she whispered a prayer. The chapter ends with Sarah waiting anxiously, knowing that this scholarship could be the turning point in her journey to New York. Chapter 5: The Scholarship Results. The scholarship Sarah applied for was prestigious, offering full funding for students to study abroad. It was her golden ticket to New York and her dreams. But the wait for the results was excruciating. Every day felt longer than the last. Sarah checked her email repeatedly, her heart pounding each time a new message arrived. Her family's attitude toward her had softened slightly after her English proficiency test success, but the doubt in her father's eyes still lingered. One evening, as she was helping her mother prepare dinner, her phone buzzed. She quickly wiped her hands and grabbed it. The subject line read, "Scholarship Decision Notification." Her heart raced as she clicked on the email. Opening the letter. The first line read, "Dear Sarah, we are pleased to inform you that you have been selected for the scholarship program to study in New York." For a moment, she stood frozen. The words didn't seem real. Her mother noticed her silence. "Sarah, what happened? Is everything okay?" Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes as she hugged her mother. "Amy, I got it. I got the scholarship." Her mother's face lit up with pride, and she called out to Sarah's father, who was sitting in the living room. "She did it, Shoaib. Sarah is going to New York." Her father looked at her, a mix of surprise and disbelief on his face. "New York? Really?" he asked. "Yes, Abba. They're covering everything, my tuition, my travel, even my living expenses," she explained, her voice trembling with excitement. For the first time, a faint smile crossed her father's face. "Well, then. You've proven me wrong, haven't you?" he said. Preparing for the journey. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of preparations. Sarah had to apply for her visa, gather necessary documents, and attend an orientation session for the scholarship recipients. Her community, which once doubted her, began to see her in a new light. Neighbors who had mocked her efforts now came to congratulate her. "You're making us proud, Beta," one elderly woman said. Even Aisha was emotional. "Sarah, I'll miss you so much, but I know you're meant for great things." Sarah promised to stay in touch, though she couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness at leaving her loved ones behind. Facing doubts. As the departure date approached, Sarah began to feel nervous. "What if I fail? What if I can't adjust to life in New York?" she confided in her mother one night. Her mother placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Sarah, you've come this far because of your determination. Trust yourself and remember why you started this journey." Her father, who had been mostly silent, added, "Remember, Sarah, you're not just going for yourself. You're representing all of us. Make us proud." The day of departure. The day finally arrived. Sarah's family accompanied her to the airport, a place she had only seen in movies. Everything felt surreal: the towering planes, the bustling crowd, and the sense of embarking on a new life. As she hugged her parents goodbye, her mother whispered, "Stay strong, Beta. Allah is with you." Her father handed her a small package. "Open this when you're on the plane," he said. With tears in her eyes, Sarah waved goodbye and walked toward the boarding gate. On the plane. As the plane soared into the sky, Sarah looked out of the window, watching her town disappear beneath the clouds. She opened the package her father had given her and found a small Quran with a note. "Whenever you feel lost, turn to this for guidance. Abba." Her heart swelled with emotion. For the first time, she felt a deep sense of pride, not just in herself, but in the journey she had undertaken to get here. The chapter ends with Sarah looking out at the endless sky, her dreams of New York closer than ever, and her determination stronger than it had ever been. Chapter 6: Arriving in New York. The moment Sarah stepped off the plane, she was greeted by the overwhelming sights and sounds of New York City. The airport was massive, with people rushing in every direction. Announcements echoed in English, and Sarah struggled to keep up with the pace of everything. Her scholarship program had arranged for someone to meet her at the airport. A tall, cheerful woman holding a placard with Sarah's name stood near the arrivals gate. "Hello, Sarah. Welcome to New York," the woman said with a wide smile. "Hello." "Thank you," Sarah replied, her accent noticeable but her words clear. The woman introduced herself as Emily, a representative from the scholarship program. Emily helped Sarah with her luggage and escorted her to a waiting car. The drive to the city. As the car sped toward Manhattan, Sarah stared out of the window, mesmerized by the towering skyscrapers, the streams of yellow taxis, and the endless energy of the city. It was everything she had seen in movies and more. "This is your first time in New York, right?" Emily asked. "Yes," Sarah replied, her voice filled with wonder. "It's so big." Emily laughed. "It can be overwhelming at first, but you'll get used to it. The city has a way of teaching you how to adapt." Settling into her dorm. Sarah's dormitory was located near the university campus. The room was small but cozy, with a bed, a desk, and a window that offered a partial view of the bustling streets below. Emily handed her a welcome packet. "This has everything you need: your schedule, a map of the campus, and a guide to the city. If you have any questions, feel free to call me." "Thank you so much," Sarah said, feeling a mix of gratitude and nervousness. After Emily left, Sarah unpacked her belongings, placing the small Quran her father had given her on the desk. She sat by the window, watching the city lights and wondering what challenges lay ahead. First day of classes. The next morning, Sarah woke up early, her heart racing with anticipation. She dressed carefully, wanting to make a good impression. The university campus was vast, with students from all over the world. Her first class was a seminar on academic English. The professor, a middle-aged man with glasses, began by asking each student to introduce themselves. When it was Sarah's turn, she stood up and said, "My name is Sarah. I come from a small town, and I am here to improve my English and study international relations." Her classmates nodded politely, but Sarah noticed a few whispered conversations. Were they commenting on her accent? Her outfit? She felt a pang of insecurity but quickly reminded herself why she was here. Making friends. During lunch, Sarah hesitated to approach anyone. The cafeteria was filled with groups of students chatting and laughing. Just as she was about to sit alone, a girl with curly hair and a friendly smile approached her. "Hi, I'm Mia. Mind if I sit here?" Sarah smiled nervously. "Of course, please sit." Mia was from Brazil and was also a scholarship student. The two bonded over their shared experiences of being new to the city. "New York is exciting, but it can be intimidating," Mia said. "Yes, very," Sarah agreed. "But I think we'll learn to love it." Navigating challenges. Over the next few weeks, Sarah faced numerous challenges. The classes were rigorous, and she often struggled to keep up with the fast-paced discussions. Some of her professors spoke so quickly that she had to record lectures and listen to them multiple times. She also experienced moments of cultural confusion. Once, she accidentally gave a cashier the wrong amount of money, leading to an awkward exchange. Another time, she got lost while trying to navigate the subway system. But with each mistake, Sarah learned. She began keeping a notebook of new words and phrases, practicing them daily. She also started watching local TV shows to understand the culture better. Finding her voice. One day, her professor assigned a group project. Sarah was paired with 3 other students, including a confident American girl named Claire. During their first meeting, Claire took charge, dividing tasks among the group. When Sarah hesitated to voice her opinion, Claire asked, "Sarah, what do you think?" Sarah hesitated but then spoke up. "I think we should focus on real-world examples for the presentation. It will make it more relatable." Claire nodded. "That's a great idea. Let's do that." For the first time, Sarah felt like her voice mattered. A glimmer of confidence. The turning point came when Sarah's group presented their project. Despite her nervousness, she spoke clearly and confidently, explaining her part of the research. After the presentation, the professor commended the group for their teamwork. "Sarah, your examples were particularly insightful," he said. Her classmates clapped, and for the first time, Sarah felt a sense of belonging. The chapter ends with Sarah walking back to her dorm, her heart swelling with pride. She still had a long way to go, but she was beginning to believe in herself and her ability to thrive in New York. Chapter 7: Building a Life in New York. As weeks turned into months, Sarah began to settle into her new life. The bustling streets of New York no longer felt intimidating but exhilarating. The subway, which had once confused her, became her daily mode of transportation. She started to develop a routine: classes during the day, study sessions in the library in the evening, and long walks around the city on weekends to discover hidden gems. However, life in New York wasn't without its challenges. Sarah still struggled with homesickness, often missing her family's warmth and the familiar sights and smells of her hometown. Yet, each challenge became an opportunity for growth, pushing her further out of her comfort zone. A part-time job. One of the conditions of her scholarship was that she had to support herself beyond tuition and accommodation, which meant finding a part-time job. After weeks of searching, Sarah landed a position at a small cafe near her dorm. Her job was to take orders, serve coffee, and occasionally bake pastries. It was her first experience working in a foreign environment, and the learning curve was steep. On her first day, a customer spoke so quickly that Sarah had to ask him to repeat his order 3 times. The man sighed, clearly frustrated. "Just a black coffee." "Is that too hard to understand?" he snapped. Embarrassed, Sarah apologized. That night, she practiced common phrases and menu items until she could say them confidently. Over time, she built rapport with the cafe's regulars, who began to appreciate her kindness and determination. One elderly man even said, "You have a good attitude. Don't let anyone discourage you." Expanding her circle. Sarah's friendship with Mia deepened, and together they explored the city. They visited museums, attended cultural festivals, and even tried street food from different parts of the world. One day, Mia introduced Sarah to a group of international students. Among them was Ahmed, a fellow student from Egypt who shared Sarah's passion for learning languages. "New York is a great place to learn," Ahmed said. "But it's also a place that tests you." Sarah nodded. "Every day feels like a test, but I think I'm getting better at it." This group became Sarah's support system, offering encouragement and advice whenever she felt overwhelmed. Facing prejudice. Despite the positive experiences, Sarah encountered moments of prejudice. One afternoon, while walking to class, a stranger made a rude comment about her hijab. "Go back to where you came from," he muttered as he passed her. Sarah froze, her heart pounding. For a moment, she considered removing her hijab to avoid further confrontations. But then she remembered her mother's words, "Stay strong, Beta. Allah is with you." The incident shook her, but it also strengthened her resolve. She decided to channel her emotions into her studies, proving to herself and others that she belonged. A special invitation. One evening, Sarah received an email from the university's International Student Office. She had been invited to share her story at a cultural diversity event. Her initial reaction was fear. Public speaking in a foreign language was daunting, but she knew this was an opportunity to inspire others. She spent days preparing, practicing her speech in front of Mia and her friends. The speech. On the day of the event, Sarah stood on the stage, her hands trembling. She took a deep breath and began. "My name is Sarah, and I come from a small town where dreams of studying abroad often feel impossible. But I'm here today because I believed in myself and worked hard to overcome every hurdle." She shared her journey, from struggling to learn English to adapting to life in New York. By the time she finished, the audience erupted in applause. A professor approached her afterward and said, "Your story is inspiring, Sarah. You have a bright future ahead of you." A new confidence. The event marked a turning point for Sarah. She began to participate more actively in class, joined the university's debate club, and even started tutoring other international students in English. Her efforts didn't go unnoticed. One of her professors nominated her for a leadership program, which offered networking opportunities with professionals in her field. Balancing work and studies. Balancing her job, studies, and social life was challenging, but Sarah learned to manage her time effectively. She kept a planner, setting aside specific hours for each task. There were nights when she felt exhausted, but she reminded herself of her goals. Each small victory, an improved grade, a kind word from a professor, or a compliment from a customer at the cafe, fueled her determination. Staying connected to home. Despite her busy schedule, Sarah made it a priority to stay connected with her family. She called her mother every weekend, sharing updates and asking for advice. Her father, who had initially been skeptical of her ambitions, began to express pride in her achievements. "You've proven me wrong, Sarah," he said during one call. "You've shown me what determination can achieve." Embracing new opportunities. By the end of her first year, Sarah felt a sense of accomplishment. She had not only survived but thrived in one of the world's most demanding cities. The chapter closes with Sarah standing on the Brooklyn Bridge, looking out at the city skyline. She reflects on how far she has come and how much further she wants to go. Chapter 8: Opportunities and Challenges. As Sarah entered her second year in New York, life became a mix of thrilling opportunities and unforeseen challenges. She was no longer the shy girl who second-guessed her every word. She had grown into someone who embraced her struggles and celebrated her progress. Yet, with growth came a new set of obstacles, and Sarah realized that success in a place like New York required constant perseverance. The Leadership Program. The leadership program Sarah had been nominated for was both exciting and intimidating. It brought together a diverse group of students, all of whom had achieved remarkable things. During the first meeting, the facilitator asked everyone to share a challenge they had overcome. When it was Sarah's turn, she spoke about her journey from a small town to New York. "I struggled with English and adapting to a new culture," she said. "But I've learned that persistence can turn challenges into opportunities." Her story resonated with the group, and Sarah felt a renewed sense of confidence. As part of the program, Sarah attended workshops on public speaking, networking, and leadership. She learned how to present herself professionally, write compelling resumes, and engage with influential people. One day, during a networking event, she met a representative from the United Nations who encouraged her to apply for an internship. The internship application. The idea of interning at the United Nations seemed both exhilarating and unattainable. Sarah doubted whether she was qualified, but Mia reminded her of her accomplishments. "You've come this far, Sarah. You can do this," Mia said. Sarah spent days perfecting her application, pouring her heart into her personal statement. She wrote about her dream of making a difference in the world, inspired by her experiences in New York. Weeks passed, and Sarah almost forgot about the application amid her hectic schedule. Then, one evening, she received an email: "Congratulations! You have been selected for an internship at the United Nations. Balancing two worlds." While the internship was a dream come true, it added another layer of complexity to Sarah's life. Her mornings were spent at the UN headquarters, attending meetings and working on projects, while her afternoons were dedicated to classes. Time management became crucial, and Sarah often found herself skipping meals or staying up late to meet deadlines. Despite the exhaustion, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. At the UN, Sarah worked on initiatives aimed at promoting education for girls in underprivileged communities. Her perspective as someone who had faced similar challenges made her contributions valuable. Personal struggles. Amid her professional achievements, Sarah faced personal struggles. Her workload left little time for her friendships, and she began to drift apart from Mia and her other friends. One evening, Mia confronted her. "We never see you anymore, Sarah. Are you okay?" Sarah sighed, feeling the weight of her responsibilities. "I'm just so busy, Mia. There's so much I want to do, but it's hard to balance everything." Mia hugged her. "Remember, it's okay to take a break. You don't have to do everything alone." A health scare. Pushing herself too hard eventually took a toll on Sarah's health. One morning, she fainted during a lecture. She was rushed to the campus health center, where the doctor told her she was severely dehydrated and stressed. "You need to take care of yourself, Sarah," the doctor said. "Your body can only handle so much." The incident was a wake-up call. Sarah realized that achieving her dreams wouldn't matter if she wasn't healthy enough to enjoy them. She began prioritizing self-care, incorporating regular meals, exercise, and moments of relaxation into her routine. Reconnecting with her roots. One weekend, Sarah visited an Islamic center in Queens, seeking a sense of community and spirituality. The center reminded her of home, with its warm atmosphere and welcoming people. She began volunteering there, teaching English to newly arrived immigrants. The experience was deeply fulfilling and gave her a chance to give back to others who were navigating the same struggles she had faced. A presentation to remember. As part of her internship, Sarah was asked to deliver a presentation on her project. The audience included senior officials, and Sarah felt the familiar nerves creeping in. But as she stood at the podium, she reminded herself of everything she had overcome. She spoke passionately, sharing stories of the girls whose lives her project aimed to change. When she finished, the room erupted in applause. One of the officials approached her afterward and said, "Your perspective is invaluable. Keep doing what you're doing." A call from home. Amid her accomplishments, Sarah never lost touch with her family. One evening, she received a call from her father. "Sarah, I heard about your internship." "I'm so proud of you," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "Thank you, Baba. I couldn't have done it without your support," Sarah replied, tears streaming down her face. Her father's words reminded her of how far she had come and how much her journey meant not just to her but to her family as well. Looking ahead. By the end of her second year, Sarah had grown in ways she never imagined. She had faced prejudice, overcome self-doubt, and built a life for herself in a city that once seemed out of reach. The chapter ends with Sarah sitting in Central Park, reflecting on her journey. She knows there will be more challenges ahead, but she feels ready to face them with courage and determination. Chapter 9, Facing New Horizons. Sarah's final year in New York marked the culmination of her efforts and a new chapter of growth. She had achieved remarkable milestones but knew that her journey was far from over. Every challenge she had overcome prepared her for the uncertainties ahead. The final semester. As the last semester approached, Sarah juggled multiple responsibilities. Between her internship at the United Nations, part-time job at the cafe, and demanding coursework, life was a whirlwind. Her days often began at dawn and ended late at night, but she thrived under the pressure. One of her final projects was a research paper on global education disparities, which required extensive study and collaboration with classmates. Sarah's passion for the topic fueled her determination to excel. Her professor, Dr. Bennett, recognized her dedication and asked her to co-present the findings at an academic conference. "This is a big opportunity, Sarah," he said. "It will open doors for your future." Although excited, Sarah felt the weight of the responsibility. She spent hours perfecting her presentation, ensuring it was insightful and engaging. A life-changing offer. During her internship, Sarah's supervisor approached her with an unexpected offer. "Sarah, we've been impressed by your work," she said. "Would you consider extending your internship after graduation? We believe your insights can contribute significantly to our initiatives." Sarah's heart raced. The offer was a dream come true, but it also came with its challenges. Staying in New York would mean being away from her family for longer, and she missed them deeply. That evening, she called her mother to share the news. "Beta, this is a wonderful opportunity," her mother said. "But remember, Allah has a plan for you. Trust your instincts." Sarah spent the next few days contemplating her decision, praying for guidance. The conference presentation. The academic conference was a defining moment in Sarah's academic journey. Standing in front of a room filled with scholars and experts, she felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. As she began her presentation, her voice trembled slightly, but she quickly found her rhythm. She spoke passionately about the importance of accessible education and shared her personal journey as an example of what determination could achieve. By the time she finished, the audience erupted in applause. Several attendees approached her afterward, praising her insights and expressing interest in her research. One woman handed Sarah her business card and said, "I work for an organization that funds educational initiatives worldwide. Let's stay in touch." A new friendship. While networking at the conference, Sarah met Elena, a fellow student from Spain who shared her passion for education reform. "You have an incredible story, Sarah," Elena said. "Have you ever considered writing a book about your journey?" Sarah laughed. "I've thought about it, but I wouldn't know where to start." Elena smiled. "Start with what you know. Your experiences could inspire so many people." Their conversation sparked an idea in Sarah's mind. Perhaps sharing her story could help others navigate their challenges. A difficult goodbye. As graduation approached, Sarah began to prepare for the next phase of her life. She had decided to accept the extended internship at the United Nations, a choice that filled her with both excitement and sadness. Saying goodbye to Mia was particularly hard. "I'm going to miss you so much," Mia said, tears streaming down her face. "We'll stay in touch," Sarah replied, hugging her tightly. "And you're always welcome to visit me." Her departure from the cafe was equally emotional. The owner, a kind-hearted woman named Laura, surprised Sarah with a farewell party. "You've been a wonderful part of our team," Laura said. "We'll miss your energy and kindness." A family visit. Before starting her extended internship, Sarah flew home to visit her family. The reunion was filled with joy and relief. Her parents marveled at how much she had grown, and her siblings bombarded her with questions about life in New York. During her stay, Sarah visited her old school and shared her experiences with the students. "Dream big," she told them. "Even if it feels impossible, take the first step and keep going." Her words inspired many, and the school principal invited her to return as a guest speaker in the future. Starting the next chapter. Returning to New York, Sarah felt a renewed sense of purpose. Her extended internship allowed her to take on more significant responsibilities, including leading a project that aimed to establish educational centers in underprivileged regions. She also began drafting her book, a memoir of her journey. Late nights were spent typing her thoughts, recounting the moments that had shaped her life. Recognition and reflection. Months into her extended internship, Sarah's efforts were recognized with an award for outstanding contribution to global education. The ceremony was attended by diplomats, academics, and her colleagues. Standing on the stage, holding the award, Sarah reflected on her journey. From a small town to the bustling streets of New York, she had faced countless hurdles but emerged stronger with each challenge. In her acceptance speech, she said, "This award is not just for me but for everyone who dares to dream and work hard to make those dreams a reality. Remember, no challenge is too great if you believe in yourself." Looking to the future. The chapter ends with Sarah standing in Times Square, looking up at the dazzling lights. She feels a sense of accomplishment but knows that her journey is just beginning. Her dreams have grown beyond her initial goals. Now, she wants to create opportunities for others, ensuring that no one's potential is limited by their circumstances. Chapter 10, Dreams Fulfilled. The final chapter of Sarah's journey was one of triumph, reflection, and a glimpse into the future she had worked so hard to shape. After years of challenges, growth, and perseverance, Sarah reached a point where her efforts bore fruit in ways she had only imagined. Publishing the memoir. Sarah's late-night writing sessions eventually turned into a completed manuscript. Titled Against the Tide, My Journey from Struggle to Strength, her memoir detailed her journey from her small hometown to the heart of New York. The publishing process was an entirely new challenge. Sarah faced rejection from several publishers, but her determination didn't waver. Finally, a small but reputable publishing house agreed to take on her book, recognizing its potential to inspire countless readers. When the book was released, it quickly gained attention. Readers from all over the world reached out, sharing how Sarah's story had motivated them to pursue their dreams despite the odds. A global initiative. The success of her book brought new opportunities. With the royalties she earned, Sarah founded an organization called Bridges of Hope, dedicated to providing educational resources to underprivileged communities worldwide. Her work took her to various countries, where she met children whose lives were transformed by access to education. She felt a deep connection to their struggles, remembering her own challenges with language and confidence. At the launch of her organization's first project, a school in a rural village, Sarah gave a heartfelt speech. "Education is the most powerful tool we have to change the world," she said. "And every child deserves that chance." Reunion with family. Sarah's success didn't diminish her love and gratitude for her family. She often flew back home to spend time with them, ensuring they were a part of her journey. One evening, as the family gathered for dinner, her father said, "Sarah, you've made us so proud. Your story gives hope to others, but it also reminds us of the power of faith and hard work." Her siblings teased her about her growing fame, but Sarah laughed it off, reminding them that her accomplishments were a result of their unwavering support. Personal fulfillment. Despite her busy schedule, Sarah made time for personal growth and happiness. She reconnected with friends like Mia, who continued to be her source of encouragement and positivity. At one of her book signings, she met a young man named Daniel, who shared her passion for education and community development. Their friendship grew into something deeper over time, and Sarah found herself embracing a new chapter in her personal life. A speech to remember. Years after arriving in New York as an uncertain student, Sarah was invited to deliver the keynote speech at a prestigious event hosted by the United Nations. The theme of the event was empowering the next generation. As she stood before an audience of global leaders, Sarah felt a sense of déjà vu. She remembered the nervous girl who had once struggled to introduce herself in English. "I am honored to stand here today," she began. "Not as someone who had all the answers, but as someone who dared to ask questions, take risks, and embrace the unknown. My journey has taught me that no matter where we come from, no matter how many obstacles we face, we all have the power to create change, not just for ourselves but for others." Her speech received a standing ovation, and Sarah knew in that moment that her dreams had come full circle. A legacy of hope. The story concludes with Sarah walking through Central Park, reflecting on her life. The skyline of New York stands tall in the distance, a reminder of how far she has come. Sarah thinks about the children her organization has helped, the people she has inspired, and the life she has built. Her journey was never just about reaching New York, it was about becoming the best version of herself and helping others do the same. As she watches the sunset, Sarah feels a profound sense of gratitude. She knows her story is far from over, but she is ready to face whatever comes next with courage, faith, and hope. Final chapter, a journey completed. Sarah's journey, once marked by hurdles and uncertainty, had become a tale of accomplishment and purpose. Her path from her small hometown to the heart of New York had not only transformed her life but also left an indelible mark on others. Returning to her roots. Years after her first flight to New York, Sarah returned to her hometown for a community event. She had been invited as the chief guest to inaugurate a new school, funded by her organization, Bridges of Hope. Standing before the eager crowd of children and their families, she felt a rush of emotions. She recalled her struggles with learning English, the fear of stepping into a new world, and the countless nights she had spent doubting herself. "This school," she said in her speech, "is proof that dreams do come true. It doesn't matter where you start, it matters how determined you are to keep going. I was once a student like you, unsure of my abilities but filled with hope. Believe in yourselves, and never let obstacles stop you." Her words resonated with the audience, especially the children, who saw her as a beacon of hope. Closing old chapters. After the event, Sarah visited her childhood home. Her parents welcomed her with open arms, and the house was filled with laughter and stories. Her mother held Sarah's hand and said, "You've done so much, Beta. But what makes us happiest is that you never forgot where you came from." Sarah's father added, "You are proof that faith and hard work can move mountains." She spent hours reminiscing with her family, feeling a profound sense of peace. Despite all she had achieved, this was where she felt most at home. A lasting impact. As Sarah prepared to return to New York, she reflected on her accomplishments. Her organization had grown, with projects in several countries. Her memoir was now a bestseller, translated into multiple languages, and used as inspiration in schools worldwide. But for Sarah, the greatest achievement was the impact she had on individuals: the young girl who wrote to her saying she wanted to become a teacher, the boy who said her story helped him learn English, and the countless others who found courage through her journey. Looking forward. On her final evening in New York, Sarah sat on a bench overlooking the skyline. The city that once intimidated her now felt like a second home. She opened her journal, something she had kept throughout her journey, and wrote, "This is not the end, it's another beginning. Life will always have challenges, but with faith, resilience, and hope, we can overcome anything." Her phone buzzed with a message from Elena, asking about their next collaboration. Sarah smiled, realizing that her work was far from over. There were more dreams to fulfill, more lives to touch, and more stories to write. The legacy of a dreamer. As Sarah walked back to her apartment, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had not only achieved her dreams but had also paved the way for others to chase theirs. Her journey was a testament to the power of belief and determination. Sarah's story ends where it began, with a dream. Only now, she knew that dreams were not just meant to be chased, they were meant to be lived, shared, and used to inspire others.